Good morning, Rabboisai. Not to be answered, Rabboisai. Oh, the host has muted everyone. Beautiful. That means Gary's alive and well. Today's shir sponsor, Lili Nishmas. Today's shir sponsor, Lili Nishmas. Imi, Rus Bas Mordechai. And by Kalman of Five Towns, in the schus of Menachem Mendel ben Simcha, in honor of our 5 towns, and proud to get together with our, I'm going to take out this word that he wrote, Magichir Reb Eli. All right, you could hang that up. This is Lili Nishmas, the yard side of Shlomi Rosenberg's father, Lili Nishmas, Reb Doiv ben Reb Shimon Zichron Levrocha, Chai Tishrei. The neshama should have an aliyah. All right. So, Be'ezer Hashem, Rabboisai, I want to say thank you to the host here in Chicago, Rabbi Twersky, related to Schneider Zalman Twersky, who's a regular here at night, Shlomi Klein's friend from Crown Heights, big Talmud Chacham, actually, great guy. So, Chicago is very nice to us, and I'll be back, Be'ezer Hashem. But I do have a ticket, a one-way ticket to New York. It's very, very complicated, but I'm going to be in Far Rockaway, Be'ezer Hashem, tomorrow. And unfortunately, I wanted to meet as many people as I can and do the whole thing. But unfortunately, with the situation, we have to be very, very limited. Meeting as few people as possible. I know Muncie wanted to do this whole thing. We'll meet the people, the regulars, and this, but we got to keep it very, very tame. I'm staying by my brother, who you know that we do a whole refuah shlema for my sister-in-law. It's her house. Baruch Hashem, she's recovering, but her immune system is very, very low, and I don't know why he invited her. He really wants us to be there. I need to be really, really careful. So, that being said, I'll meet people, but I'm very limited and masks and social distancing. Unfortunately, I promise I'll be back one day. We'll do it the proper way. But I will be in New York starting from tomorrow. I'll try to make my rounds, a little Lakewood, a little Muncie, a little Brooklyn. But again, we'll try to tame it down. Small crowds. The less people, the better for now. All right. That being said, I do have I don't understand. Somebody wrote this tremendous long Musar shmooze saying that I said over a story how I found an esrog, and I didn't mention that it was a siyata d'shmayna hashgacha pratis. I thought it was very clear.
Yeah, you said it's an MDY myphus.
I did say it's an MDY myphus, you're right.
That explains the whole thing.
But maybe he wasn't paying attention, or for anybody else who misunderstood what I said. It was a myphus gadol. It was a siyata d'shmayna shein kamayu. It was the end of the day. There was 0 esrogim. I decided, okay, let's just at least buy a lulav. And not only did I get an esrog, somebody came to return an esrog. I have no idea what he had instead of this esrog. Like, how could it be better than this? It even had a gartel. I never had an esrog that had a gartel. The middle was like squeezed in. It has the perfect color, the perfect everything. I have to show you a picture of it. 0. I mean, I looked. Shalom Aleichem remark. So, anyways, no, it was the Moed Gadol Moed. It was, it was a good thing. You prepared the daf. Do your thing, I'll take care of you. That's how I felt. If you didn't understand the story,
I think it's supposed to take care of you.
No reason to write such a long Musar shmooze on something that was so clear. What is going on here? Shem Yerachem. Okay, here's a quick email. It's also not so quick because it's this long, but first, I should say thank you for getting me into the daf. This is from Michal David Tzuk, I think is how you pronounce it. It's been about 25 years since I learned Gemara, and hearing this year, the beginning of a new cycle, got me inspired. I found out in August, I was going to try to catch it. Rabboisai, send in your emails. I'm ready to do more emails. Send them in. And also, Rabboisai, upload or update the app. Only about 400 people have updated their app. We need many more. There are a couple thousand people that have the app. So Update it. Be one of those people. I'm telling you, it's kedai. It's been about 25 years, fine. I found that in August, brachas. Oh, so he says like this. And I was going to try to catch up from brachas, but your instruction that it's the Yomi and not so much the daf convinced me to jump to Eruvin. It's been a wonderful journey so far. I'm catching up on weekends with brachas and Shabbos and hope to have them finished sometime the next year. Givaldik. Oh, that's the way to do it. You jump into Eruvin and you worry about brachas and Shabbos at a different time. Worst comes to worst, you don't do it this cycle, you'll do it next cycle, but at least we get going. You don't let the Yetzer Hara get in the way. But here's the kicker. Your shiurim are wonderful. I watch them in the mornings in Oregon, USA. So we have a guy from Oregon, USA. I don't even know. I don't know where it is. It says USA. I guess it's in America. I also see you are live in Chicago as I'm getting ready for bed. Makes me chuckle. Yeah, makes me chuckle. It's like it's all get worse. It's 1 hour later. May the share continue for the next 7 years and beyond. I've checked out other online shiurim and find that you don't rush through as if your shoes are on fire. This guy only does Amud Aleph so far, I guess. Like some of the more yeshivish ones. And you don't get too technical and too boring. Your liveliness, banter, interactions, the real worldness. Make the share engaging and fun. Thank you and your shekoyach. And then he asks a whole question about tchum. Fine. Hope you have a great Shabbos and good Yontif. May the weather be decent in Chicago. L'chaim b'atzlocha Michal David. Yeshakayach Reb Michal David. All right. Today is Daf Nun Ches. Daf Noyach. Believe it or not, in today's Daf, there's actually a word, Nun Ches. There's a word, Noyach, in the Daf. Noyach Tishmishtei. But we're holding 3 lines down. We were over a big no-no in Daf Yomi, and that is to go into the next day's Daf. But I couldn't control myself. We did it fast, and we're going to explain the Mishnah more or less in today's Gemara. Says the Gemara, Minani Mili, how do you know? We're talking about how you measure a tchum. You measure a tchum with a rope that's 50 amma long. I hold one end, you hold the next end, and we just keep on going until we do this over and over until we get to 2,000 amma. 40 times. I hold this end, and you hold that end, I hold that. 50. It has to be a rope of 50 amma. Binani Mili, how do we know that we use a rope that's 50 amma long? Omar Avido Marav, the Omar Kro, Oirech Chotzer Meo Ba'ama. The Chotzer, Beis Hamikdash, the Chotzer is 100 amma long. And we had this Gemara extensively where we're learning karfifos, how wide is a karfaf, and we said it's 70. Yesterday we were talking about the karfaf, 70 2/3. How do we know this amount? From this pasuk. It's 50 wide by 100. It's 5,000 amas. If you want to square it out, instead of 50 by 100, you do 70 2/3 by 70 2/3. So that's how we have the measurement 70 2/3. But the pasuk says, all the pasuk should say is v'roichav chamishim. The width is 50. Why does it say chamishim b'chamishim? The extra word teaches us that the rope that you measure, the tchum, which by the way is the rabbanon, it's not even in a pasuk, but this is in a smachta. Unless you're Rebbe Kiva, it's beautiful. Rebbe Kiva says it's doiraisa. Who else says it's doiraisa? Rebbe Meir. We had a whole sugi. Rebbe Meir says like Rebbe Kiva. By the way, the Rambam paskins like Rebbe Kiva that tchum is doiraisa, but everybody else seems to hold differently. So we know from the pasuk, from the extra word b'chamishim. Amar Torah b'chevel shechamishim amo medoid. You should measure with a rope that's 50 amma. The Gemara is going to explain why 50 amma. What's so special about 50? Why not 55? Why not 26? But we already learned that extra word to teach us the idea of 70 2/3 by 70 2/3 for karfaf. That's not mukaf ledira. You're right. So there's an extra word, but not only is there an extra word chamishim, but it says b'chamishim. So the extra beis and the extra chamishim. So you learn 2 things. From the chamishim you learn 1 thing, from the beis you learn another. Shmas min otarti, I can learn 2 things out of this. Now, why can't this rope be any longer than 50? You know, if you have, especially in those days, how are you creating this rope? You're taking different reeds, whatever you're doing, you're taking this vine that grows. So if you pull it too strong, you might you might stretch it a little bit. Today also, I guess if you have a rope, they're stretchable. They're not like, it's not metal. So Mamela, if it's 50, which is manageable, I grab one end, it's 100 feet long, it's pretty long. By the time me and you, we start playing tug of war, it's going to become 51, let's say, or 50 in a couple of inches. That's a problem. V'lo yoser, that's if it's shorter. But if it's very long, if it's already 50 amma, by the time I pull it, you pull it, we get it nice and taut, we're not going to make it any longer than 50. Now, why not more than 50? Okay, so do 60. 50, it's not going to become any stretch, it's not going to stretch. But that's 50. What about 60? Now, it's so long that there's going to be a little bit of a give in it. You can't pull it that taut when it's more than 100 feet. There's going to be a little bit of a belly there. It's going to dip. That dip is not good. You need to get it nice and straight. I love these Gemaras. So I don't gain anything by telling me what a schema is, because I'm telling you it's nargila. Okay, and what's nargila? My nargila, Omer Yaakov, dikla dechad nevara. We had this many times. You have this like some sort of grass that grows around the palm tree. It's a singular grass, one piece, the chad nevara, and that's how they made the rope out of. That's the only material you can make it out of. Iked Amri, Mayav Haskima. Now, in the Iked Amri, in this pshat, we have two pshatim of schema. Rabbi Amar Nargila. Either it's Nargila, I don't know what it is, but the Gemara knew what it was. Rabbi Yaakov Amar Dikla Dechad Nevar. So it's tuta, either it's machloikis in Afskima, and according to the second pshat, the first pshat was it's Nargila, which is Dikla. Now we're saying no, it's either Nargila A or B, it's Dikla. It's from a palm tree. You know what? If I were to write the halacha, says the Gemara, I would use metal chains, because a metal chain you can't stretch, and you make it nice and tight. And weitergegangen, they have a perfect. Well, why are you using reeds? Something from some sort of grass that grows around the palm tree. That's not very.
Measuring tape.
Yeah, use a measuring tape. That's a piece of metal.
One's growing around it, the other one's going straight up with it.
It doesn't matter. We don't know. Shari Omer Torah, but the Torah tells us not to use a metal chain. In the future, Beis Hamikdash, Yechezkel describes, he says, he's going to use, you know what, it might be this year, right now, this week, this coming week, after, Chaim Kanievsky and the Trump and the whole Zach, everybody say, Mashiach's coming next week. So, but they're not going to go to Home Depot and buy that metal. Ubiyadai chevel mido. He's going to have a measuring rope. That's it. No more, no metal. Voksiv ubiyado ish knei mido. But it also says in the same parsha by Yechezkel in the future Beis Hamikdash, they're going to use a stick, not a rope. Oh, the tare. You use a stick when it's a very short measurement. You want to know how wide the gate is. So use a measuring stick. I seriously, I'm sitting here. It's the same people that were here in night one are here tonight, and the same people that sat with me till 1 o'clock in the morning, Erev Yontif. It's an unbelievable sacrifice. You're getting a nice vacation now for about a week. I'll see you next week, Be'ezer Hashem. And there's actually good news. They might let me back into Israel. If you weren't in America for 21 days, you could apply for a permit. So, but if you're there for more than 21 days, then you cannot. So I guess my daughter is going to be stuck here for another few months. But anyway, weiter. We'll be back soon. Can't wait. Vaksiv, not that you guys are terrible, it's just I don't feel comfortable. I feel, Geschmack and RBS and DY, the mats of my house, this, I don't know. It's 11:15 at night saying shiur. Vaksiv, ubiyado ish knei amido. Auletari. Tani, what happened? I can't hear. Say again?
And I thought it was the people.
The people where?
RBS.
You guys are the best. I miss you tons. Miss you tons. Yoel's gonna miss me. There's nothing like Yoel Bergman. I gave him a tour of my house today. Yeah, but Yoel is gonna have to come to Israel. Fine. Zok Gemara. Tani Rav Yosef. Shleishach Avalim Heim. The three types of ropes. Now, We are arguing on Ravasi. Ravasi says we're using the faskima, which is either nargila or it's dekel. And yeah, I just need a cup, yo. Yo's mamish, big tzaddik. Either, and he brought water, he brings it from his house. He doesn't take from the kitchen, he brings it from his house. Unbelievable. Mogog is a reed. Shel Netzer. Netzer says Rashi, very interesting. Arava, mamish, and Yonadan Yoima. You take the bark of a arava tree. Bishal Pishton and linen. Shel Mogog lepara. Why would I use reed? For the para aduma. Because para aduma can't have any tuma. The reed is not mekabel tuma. The snan kifasua, they tie down the para aduma. Bechevel hamogog, made out of reeds, a rope made out of reeds, and you put it on the mizbeach, right? Because the paraduma, you take this $1 million cow. The guy in upstate New York a few years ago had a paraduma. He wasn't religious. He said, "I'm not selling it for $1 million. Maybe the Messiah will come tomorrow. I want to be the one with the paraduma." Some chassid offered him $1 million. Supposedly, he turned it down. This paraduma that's worth $1 million, you take it and you burn it. And you take the ashes and you sprinkle it on somebody that's tamei mace. Yeah, avada. So
Can a guy give it?
we're not talking about paraduma halachas now. I just threw it in for a second. When we get to those halachas, we'll discuss it. So you take the paraduma in Chicago. They have all these interesting questions. I'm just whatever. Don't ignore them. So you take the paraduma, you tie it up with a special rope called magog. Because it's not mekabel tumah, you can't have the parah get tummy from a rope. Why would you use a bark of a arava tree? L'saita. For the saita. The saita, one of the things the kohen has to do is he has to rip her clothing from her shoulder, exposes her. So that she shouldn't be exposed, you take this rope and you tie it above her chest. Shal pishton, what do you do with the linen? Limedida. Oh, so anytime you have to, whatever needs to be measured, like by us, by tchom, or miklat, all these things, you measure with a linen rope. But it's mechulik on what we said before, that it's made out of apis kmiya. What is it called? Afaskima. Nargila, faskima. Now he's saying no. He holds, Rabbi Yosef holds, it's made out of linen, not a faskima. All right, let's just go real quickly. I see Dvir Nedwin, that's Givaldik. I just want to see who's on first. Micha Kaplan, Shalom Aleichem, Nechemia Seltzer. It's always great to see him. Moti Middeldorf, I don't know who that is. Aaron Rozovsky is Givaldik. Andrew Glatz, sitting in a sukkah in Chicago, freezing. I guess he'd rather be in a sukkah than be by us.
He doesn't drink water outside the sukkah.
He doesn't drink water outside the sukkah.
And he has a fireplace.
And Hil Kamiansky finally decided to come onto the shir. I know you're there every day. I know you're there every day. I'm hacking in Chinik. Who else? Jonathan Bodner. Wow.
He doesn't smoke indoors.
He doesn't. Who? Ay. That's just a private joke between me, Andrew, and Avi. All right. You don't have to smoke these days. It's all sorts of stuff. Anyway, fine. Who else? And Jonathan Bodner, Rabbi Isai. It is a beautiful sukkah. Wow. Beautiful sukkah, Andrew. Love it. He had a minyan for Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah there. Don't ask. So Jonathan, every time I see Jonathan Bodner, it reminds me of basketball. I haven't played in 7 months, I think. Hashem Yirachem. Okay. Rabbi Isai, we're going into a beautiful sugi here. Haya Moed V'Gia. I got to go back to the other screen, right? Here we go. Okay. Rabbi Vom Schwartz is here. Rabbi Isai, right? Pesach Waxman gets a big mazel tov. His grandson, I think, got engaged, right? Now, I was supposed to meet him here in Chicago. He's here in Chicago, and I kept on pushing him off, and now I'm flying away from here. Maybe when I get back, but he's leaving. Okay. So, we had a very interesting case. I hope I didn't mess it up too much. He's trying to measure this blue line. He's trying to see where this 2,000 amas is going on this blue line. Here's the city, and he goes out. The problem is that he encounters a valley. Here, you see this black line, a valley. So he cannot continue over. So what does he do? The problem is that the valley, if you look over here, this blue line shows you the width of the valley, more than 50 amma. Huh?
Or a canyon.
Canyon, call it whatever you want. Canyon. The Gemara calls it a valley, a valley. Canyon, better. This blue line represents the width of the valley, even though you can't really see it so well in the picture, but trust me, it's the width of this blue line. The blue line is too wide. Your rope is only 50. You can't use a rope that's 60. So what do? So the idea that the Mishnah says is you go all the way, you follow the valley till there's a very narrow area. You see, here's a very short blue line that you could use. That you could have one person stand on one side, another person stand on the other side, and Shalom Yisrael. The problem is that there's a red line. The red line indicates that there's a tchum. You passed the tchum, you went past this red line. You can't go past the red line. It's outside of the tchum. So the Mishnah says don't do that. Don't measure from outside of the tchum. Because people are going to think that the tchum continues past this red line. They see you measuring over here, but the tchum is up to here. Okay. So the Gemara understands. It doesn't say, when you read the Mishnah, it should say that if there's a canyon, a valley, you toss a rope to the other side of the valley. Reuben stands on one side, Shimon stands on the other side. They pull it, and they pretend there's no valley. Just go weiter, as if it's straight plains. Shalom Aleichem, David Feinberg. How are you? How many days are we into this? I don't know what's going on here. What's my record? 300 and what? Anybody know? No. Okay. Do your cheshbon and get back to me, please. So the Gemara says, from the fact that it says in the Mishnah, what's the lashon? If he was measuring v'giel guy and he got to a valley, so all it should say is the halacha of mavlioi. Mavlioi means I pretend there's no valley. I stand on one side and my friend stands on the other side, and there's no valley. For all we don't care about the valley. Why? What's the tremendous chiddush here? Tremendous chiddush. Because if I don't have a halacha called mavlioi, then I would have to go into the valley, measure downwards, measure the floor, measure the upward climb, and go on. Who says that I can do an aerial measurement? The Gemara says I can use my drone and go right over the valley as if nothing happened. That's called mavlioi. But then the Mishnah says a word, v'chayzer limidasai. What's v'chayzer limidasai? Where am I going to? Where am I going back to? I'm there. I'm already there. I have a rope here, and I tell you go over there, and we continue. What's v'chayzer? Oh, from the word v'chayzer limidasai, it's telling me a new idea, and that's the idea that we discussed here. That if I can't, the valley is too wide. What's going on, Avi? What's the big joke over here? What's the simcha g'dayla? Fine, I have no idea. That if I can't do it here, do it later on in the line. Let's see if I have a picture of that. No, okay, fine. The point is, I could do it over here. Forget about the tchum. I could do it over here as long as it's not outside of the tchum. That's v'chayzer. I do it over here, and then I just figure out where I am compared to where I was before, and I continue on. I go up. That's v'chayzer. I do it in the narrow part of the valley where my rope fits, the 50 amma fits. I take that measurement and apply it to where I was before. V'chayzer. And I go back. Okay. Says the Gemara, if I can't do this concept called mavlioi, it's too wide. The valley is too wide. I go to a narrow part of the valley. And then what? V'tzaifa. This never works, Rabbi. I don't know how the Gemara thinks it's going to work. You look from a distance, you eye it, you eyeball it, you say, oh, I was be'erach over here in the middle of the desert. No, a little bit to the left. Okay, let's continue from there. Okay, fine. And you continue measuring your 2,000 amos. You were measuring. You're trying to get 2,000 amos, but you get to a valley. If you could do havla, if you could pretend that there's no valley, go above the valley, great. Okay, same halacha. You go to a place that's narrow and you do it. Now, im hoyo gai mu'ukam. So we're going to go according to the second Pshat Rashi. If the valley takes a nasty 90-degree turn, so you're measuring, but then the valley turns. The narrow part of the valley is after a turn. Could you see it? Yeah, you could see. So you're trying to measure from here, from the city. You're 1,000 amma, let's say. You cross the valley, but you can't cross the valley. Why? Because the valley is too wide. So you take this little trip through the red line. You take the red line, and you measure the valley over here. And then you go from here, you measure as if there's no valley on the flat surface. That's how Rashi is going to learn. You take a trip over the valley over here, measure, and you continue. You follow this red line and you continue weiter as if you went over the valley over. Instead of going over the valley in the white part, you go over the valley after it turns. You're on the western side of the city. You're going to go to the northern side, climb over, measure, and continue. Okay? Azay state. If the valley takes a turn, mekader va'oila, mekader v'yored. Oh, so the mekader halacha is as follows. This is not going to work for different reasons. It doesn't work. It's out. Whatever. So what you do is, this is the mekader halacha. You drill through and through. Basically, you take a rope from, as the Gemara is going to describe later on Amud Beis, from one's chest to the feet, chest, feet, chest. So you have a straight rope all the way up or all the way down the valley. Higia lekoisel. What happens if you get to a wall? In oimrim yikov akoisel, you can't puncture the wall. In other words, what does it mean to puncture a wall? You can't make a hole through a wall. So what you do is you take a big rod, 2 rods, and a string on top, and you go over the wall with that, and you measure like that. Basically, the same thing you would do to a valley, just you do it over a wall. You're using a string above a wall. How? 2 poles, 2 ladders, do it any way you want. You just take a string, you pretend there's no wall, you go above the wall. You don't do that. Oh, so the Gemara now introduces a new idea. We have a bunch of ideas. I'll try to make a seder of everything that we're learning because there's a bunch of halachas here when we finish the sugya. So now we're talking about the idea of oimed. I just estimate, or let's call it guesstimate. Guesstimate. I look at my wall and I say, that's approximately 2.5 feet. Let's add 2.5 feet to the tchum. Let's go weiter. It doesn't exist. Next, tremendous kula. Now this is a step above, a bigger kula than just taking a rope above the wall, taking a rope above a valley. This is like just in your head, whatever you decide, la halacha, it works. How could you say that I could just guesstimate? We learned that if you have a geder, in the Mishnah, it says, Higia legai ola geder. Geder and a wall is the same exact thing. A fence, meaning a pile of stones, something you can't contend with. So you have to use mavliya. You have to use rope that's above the wall. You can't just guesstimate. Hasam nichat ashmishta, hacha loy nichat ashmishta. Where I can use a rope. So that's called mislaket asara metoich arba. If you recall that term of the rise over run, if the rise over run is manageable, I can walk. You see, people are walking. Yes, it's kind of an incline, but it's not the worst in the world. Then you use a rope. Here's your wall. It's a wall that's manageable. But if it's a really steep wall, a regular wall that has, you can't climb a wall, we're not monkeys, so that you could estimate. You do it on oimed. Amar Rav Yehuda Mishmuel. Lo yishanu elo she'ein chut hamishkoiles yored kenegdoi. Where do I say this halacha of koider? So you see how many ideas we're throwing out here. We have koider, we have oimed, we have mavliya. Koider is to drill through a mountain. How? Rope, chest to foot, etc. When do I say this halacha of koider? Elo she'ein chut hamishkoiles yored kenegdoi. When I worked in construction back in the day, and I used to build walls and stuff like that, we had to use something called a plumb line. This you could buy, this exact thing you buy in Home Depot today. It's a piece of metal, steel or whatever, and it has a string, and you hold it from a high whatever, you hold it from a certain position, and it shows you exactly where the point below your hand is. What's that noise?
Ellie, you're lucky you're not in RBS right now. Your shear would have gone black. Your power went out.
Really? We had that problem here in Chicago. You don't remember? We had one night we didn't have any disaster.
Avi, it's back on now.
Is that the stuff that makes a mark when you go like down? Like, or something else?
That's something else. Anyway, so the Gemara had the exact same thing. It's called chut hamishkoiles. It's a plumb line.
Somebody from Havana Hashmal who went to the bathroom and just by mistake turned off the wrong switch.
Okay. They don't have the like. Okay, that's we're not going to talk about that. The difference between Israel, Chicago. Yeah, every once in a while the electric just decides to go off. They don't give you notice. You're in the elevator, poof, no electric. Why? Kacha. They decided the guy next door. We were in the middle of a shear and they just turned off the whole electric. Why? Because the guy next door decided. Most likely nobody needs it right now, but we were in the middle of the shear at night that time, and they shut off the electric. Anyway, but we're here in Chicago. We have electric. You guys will have to watch it on YouTube later. Now, here's a nice picture from the Oiz V'Hadar. Here's Chut HaMishkoilas. He has a nice little steel ball on the bottom of a string. Now, if you could use this guy, in other words, as the Gemara is going to describe later, it's not more than 4 amos of an incline. You don't have 4 amos, a part of the canyon. It's a steep vertical plane, and the chut, this plumb line goes to the bottom. Great. When do you do gdira? When do I use the rope and the whole thing and people hold it and this and that? Is when I have more than 4 amos of an incline in my plumb line is not going to reach the bottom. It's going to hit the wall. So if it's going to hit the wall, I have to use kedira. I have to use the other way of doing it. I have to hold these, I have to do this guy, yes? If my plumb line doesn't reach the bottom, I have to do this, kedira. Now, we are turning to Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis. You notice, we just read Noach Tashmishtei, Nicha Tashmishtei. Okay. Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis, Noach Amud Beis is sponsored by Mark Steinberg, who's here again. Schus for Yitzchok Pesach Yehuda Shidduch. Yitzchok Pesach Yehuda ben Meir Yosef. And by Anonymous. By the way, I found out who the anonymous $5,000 was. Baruch Hashem. He's the true anonymous. Not one of those wannabe. He's the original anonymous. You're not anonymous, Yosef. Atzlacha in Yiddishkeit and a schush for his family to be Torah Jews. All right. Listen to this. This is a kula. You hear? Why is this a kula? Can anybody figure out why this is a kula? If the plumb line goes to the bottom, meaning it's less than 4 amas of an incline, so I get to measure the bottom surface of the canyon. I climb into the canyon and I measure the surface of the canyon. And then I climb up. I don't include the walls, the verticals, the bottom. So listen to this beautiful chiddush here. I have up to 4 amas on both sides. In other words, 3.99 amas. If my plumb line works, up to 3.99. In other words, I get another 4 amas almost on each side for free. Part of my tchum. That's a kula. Again, if I put my plumb line into the canyon and the whole wall is a bit of a, what is it called? A bit of an angle of incline of 3.99 amma. There's a little bit of a slope there, great. There's a little bit of a slope, but it's only 3.99 on one side. And 3.99 on the other side, or better like that. Okay. Then I can measure from the bottom to the bottom, but I get all this for free. This is 3.9 amas, and this is 3.9 amas. I get almost 8 amas added to my tchum. Now, I did notice that the Bir Halacha says that it doesn't matter whether the top part is wider than 50 amas or not, although the Rush learns over here that it's dafka if it's more than 50 amas do we do this. Okay. V'kama oimkei shel gai. How deep is this canyon? Omer Rav Yosef Alpayim. Up to 2,000 amma. Because 2,000 amma is its own little tchum, up to 2,000 amma. It says that it's only up to 100. Why are you telling me up to 2,000? When do I do avla? When do I use a rope from side to side? It's only up to 100, not 2,000. Okay, this is machlokes here. Acherim, who's acherim? Remeir. The sign acherim oimrim afilu omek alpayim v'roichav chamishim. Well, Remeir is the one that says 2,000. I go like Remeir. Mavliya. Iked amri Omer Rav Yosef afilu yoser malpayim. Even more than 2,000 amas. Kiman. Who does he go according to? The loike tanakam, loike acherim. It goes according to no one. Because acherim Remeir holds 2,000 amas, but not an inch more. And you just said even more than 2,000 amma. And Tanakama certainly is not, because he says up to 100 depth. Says the Gemara, no. So, if the plumb line doesn't go, you can't do it. In other words, it's more than 4 amas of a slope. So what is this? How much of a slope are we discussing? As we said, arba, arba. The most you could include in a slope, it doesn't have to be 100% vertical. It could be a little bit of a slope of 4 amas. But there's a nafkamina whether you could use the slope or not, whether you get 2,000 amma or more. Okay, so now we'll continue, and then I'll show you what we have over here. You get to a mountain, so you do have law on top of the mountain as well. You take a string, you pull it on top of the mountain. If you can't do it, it's too wide, you go somewhere else where it's narrower, and then you come back. So we have 2 lashonis in Rav. Pay attention here. Very interesting. If the rise to run is 10 tfachim across 4 amas. Here. I don't know if you could see so well from the picture, but you have 4 amas and 10 tvachim. 10 tvachim tall over a run of 4 amas. However, but if to get to 10 tvachim you have to go over 5 amas, which is less of a slope, then you just measure it as you're going, a normal, regular measuring. That's shot number one, lashon number one in Rava. Ravuna b'rei Rav Nosson masin l'kula. Ravuna says, no, we got a little bit more of a kula. Omar Rava l'shonu ela b'hara mislakin asorim t'ei chamesh. If the mountain, the rise to run, is 10 tfachim high, after it goes up 5 amos, takes 5 amos to get to 10 tfachim. So he only has 2 measurements here. There's the rise to run 5 over 10 over 5 amos and 10 over 4 amos. 10 over 4 amos is oimed. You just give it a little bit of a look. You decide on your own what it is. Now, I know we're running out of time here. We must see Tosfos inside. And for that, I did a little bit of a chart if you want. You don't have to read Tosfos. I'll read it. You can look at the chart. Tosfos dibra maskil ava mislakin asor metoy chamisho moedem mididi yafa. Go down 8 lines. 2, 4, 6, 8 lines. V'hashto ikko arbe dinim bekoisel v'har. Says Tosfos, to sum up the whole sugya, we have 4 halachas in a mountain. The imislakin asor metoy chamisho, if it's a very nice incline, it's walkable, moeded kekarka chalaka, then you just measure it as if it's flat. But if it's on a bigger, steeper incline, mavliya, then you use a string on both sides, you pretend it's not there. It's 2, whatever, mikhader. Then you use the halacha of drilling. You use people. And if it's noyach, it's not noyach, tashmishay. If you can't walk it, you can't do it, then you give it its own little estimation. Now, you skip a little bit of Tosfos, go down a couple lines, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 lines, and it says like this. In Rava number 2 that we had, he only has 3 halachas. Very different than what we said before. Before we said you measure regular. He says no. According to this lashon, we do have law. You use a rope. And if it's 10, the rise to run is over 4. Then you do an estimation. And if using a plumb line, then you ignore the entire, whatever, the 4 amos, less than 4 amos of the slope. Fine. Oh, and one more chart here. And what about a valley? There are 2 major halachas in a valley. What you do is either mavliya, you go over the valley, but if you can't go over a valley, you do koider, you drill. So it's mavliya or koider. Now, if you could use a plumb line, then you do a medida yafa, you measure the bottom of the valley. All right? Those are the halachas here. Again, in a valley, you either use a rope from side to side, and if you can't, you drill. But if you can use a plumb line, then you go to the bottom of the valley and you measure the bottom floor of the valley. Ubavachli Yitzay, says the Gemara. Why can't they go out of the tchum? And that was this case over, where is it? Let's see if I can find it. It was all the way in the beginning. Oh. So right over here, he's trying to measure the line, but he has a valley, so he goes to the narrow part of the valley. But the narrow part of the valley is past the tchum, going this way, past the tchum. So he's not allowed to go past the tchum. Why not? People are going to say, oh, this is in the tchum. Even though the line is over here, they see him measuring, so they'll say, I could go out of there. We learned this halacha, we explained it. How do you do? Everything's messed up here. How do you do this? How do you do kidur? How do you drill? Tachton keneged liboy, the bottom one against his heart. Elyon keneged the margaloisov, and the string, the rope goes to the other guy's feet. This string is only 4 amos, not a centimeter more. If they find a body between cities and they don't know which city is closer, so they, wow, I lost 10 people there. What's going on? They're running to Shachars. So the Egla Rufa, they have to measure which city is closest. They don't know, so you don't do kidur, you don't drill. You have to use a rope. Why? It's dairaisa. And if somebody kills somebody by mistake, he could run away from the Goyal Adam, from the relatives, and he could be within the tchum of the city of Dar Miklat or the Ar Alavim. Why can't you do kidur? Why can't you drill? Mipnei shehein shel Torah. You know what? We'll stop over here. This will be New York's Daf Nuntes. We'll start from the Mishnah. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful, wonderful day, evening, night. Very good. Noam is still on, or he ran?
We lost power, Eli.
That's why we lost so many people. I hear. Okay. Lost power. So Noam is gone.
So they're not serious to
I think my twin should. Oh, here he is. I see Noam. I saw Noam somewhere. Noam, you want to see Tehilim?
Well, yeah, I know.
Yosef, you want to say Tehilim? Somebody say Tehilim. Yosef, you say Tehilim. Go.
Yosef here or Yosef there?
Yosef there. Yosef Verman, my twin. Oh. Adonai Shema b'Kali Dezeh. Ima v'nei Zishmoy Adonai mi Moed. Kimcha Azdicha Leman Tivorei. Kisa L'Shit V'Echoti. Shinachim Shemon Aboiker, Shemon Aboiker. Achal Yisrael Adonai K'malach. V'Ivdei Yisrael Mikol HaBnei Yisrael V'Achel HaGavus.